Hello everybody and welcome back to another CTF walkthrough. Today we are going to PermX from HackTheBox. So I know I've been on a little bit of a hiatus recently. I was fortunate enough to secure a summer internship this past summer, so I was really busy with that. And with the school season starting up again, I of course have been moving back to college. So with that in mind, my room is still quite the disaster, to put it bluntly. So that's why we have a lack of face cam today. But with all that being said, it doesn't matter. We're here for a CTF, so let's get straight into it. Um, we can start by running an nmap scan. So nmap-sc for scripts, -sv for versions, and then our IP, and we can output it to nmap.txt. As you can see by the highlight, I've already done this. So if we cat that out, we see that only two ports are open. We have 22 for SSH and we have HTTP on port 80. It says we're getting redirected to permx.htb. So let's add that to our etc hosts file so it will auto-resolve. Have our IP here and then permx.htb. Let's navigate to this site, Firefox, and it looks like it is the best online learning platform. So just navigating this, I'm just looking for, and while I do this, I should be running like a Gobuster. I like to do two different forms of enumeration. I like to do a Gobuster and a FFUF for subdirectories. So a Gobuster would look for um, directories after permx.htb, and subdirectories with FF will look for, well, subdirectories before permx.htb. So for the Gobuster, it would be http permx.htb, and we can do a word list of share word lists derb big.txt, and then the ff command, if I remember, ff our word list. So I'll do share word lists derb and subdomains top 20,000. And then we'll do -u and our website. So http permx.htb, and then any headers. So we're going to add a host header, which will be fuzz. So fuzz.permx.htb. And the fuzz here, if you're unfamiliar with FF, what FF does is it'll take this word list and shove all of the words in the word list into whatever you put fuzz into. So since we're enumerating for subdirectories, we're going to fuzz right here before or sub the permx.htb. And close our quote and let it run. And so this is a pretty common thing. Sometimes it will just catch everything with status 302. The thing I like to do to correct that is do just -ac, which stands for auto correction, I think, or something of that sort. And when we run it again, we'll see it only picks up actually real subdirectories. So Gobuster didn't really pick up much. These are kind of just like default libraries and such. Let's see. We'll go to like CSS and we can see the CSS and stuff, but it's not going to be very useful to us. Oops, not want to go there. Back. There we go. We can go to like the libraries. See, like there's some JavaScript and whatever libraries that the page is using to look pretty. But after looking at it for a while, none of this really provides any user input. So we can't put anything into this website that will call back to us. So it's really useless to us. It's pretty static. So there's really nothing we can do. Thankfully, though, our subdirectory enumeration got us a couple subdomains. So we've got www, which leads us to the exact same page. We also have LMS, which stands for Learning Management System. So LMS, and it can't find that site because it's not in our host file. So if we go back to etc hosts, we can add lms.permx.htb. And we refresh this page, we see that we have a login form. So we can try like a couple just default, like admin password. And we can also use tools on this, like we can use Hydra is a pretty common tool to use, like HTB brute force. But you see that this is being run, this LMS is being run by Chamilo. So powered by Chamilo here in the bottom. And we also have a administrator name, which is a little strange to me. And we also have an email, so admin@permx.htb. But the powered by Chamilo is the main thing we want to look at here. We can also see in the source code, we scroll down all the way to the bottom, it should show, I guess not. Usually with formats and templates like this, it'll show like powered by Chamilo or powered by who what now, but we see Chamilo. And with the nature of this box, it being easy, the first thing we can look for is just a straight up CVE, just straight off the internet. So if we do like Chamilo exploit is a good thing just to look for. And we see obviously the first post is a proof of concept for Chamilo LMS unauthenticated big upload RCE PoC. So this is just a straight up RCE for Chamilo. And it's super easy to use. We can just close this. So you just follow these steps. So we're going to clone the repository. We're going to cd into our repository for the post. We're going to install the requirements with pip. I might already have them. Yeah, I already have them. And then we just run the script like this. So Python 3, the main script, we don't have this, but we are going to put our current URL, that being lms.permx. So as opposed to it being a directory named Chamilo, it's just the subdirectory of LMS. And the -a is going to scan it to see if this website's vulnerable and target's likely vulnerable. Go ahead. So if we go back to this post, it just says to webshell. That's what it will give us. So webshell, enter the webshell file that we place on the target. So it wants us to give it a file. We don't have a file yet, so we can just make one. We can just go to revshells.com. My IP is not 1234. It is 10.10.14.38 on port 444, and it is going to be a PHP because we see here in it's index.php. So we're gonna look for a PHP file. And usually I do the pentest monkey one, but for this, it really doesn't matter which one you pick. For the sake of consistency, I suppose I will just do the pentest monkey one. So nano revshell.php, paste that in, and then we can run revshell, give it the name, revshell.php, and it says upload was successful, and this is where we need to go to access our web shell. So let's try out that link. And let's replace cmd with like a who am I. And we can see our reverse shell has correctly functioned, and now we have command execution on this server. So if we cat password, we can see we have what we need. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to get a shell on the box. So we can do that by going back to revshells, because I do not have the bash shell memorized, unfortunately. I'm doing this bash-i. So, but we're going to encode it in both base64 and URL encode it. So I can echo bash. I don't know why it automates to sh. I just think bash is simpler and it works more of the times than not. So then we're going to pipe that to base64. And whenever you see pluses like this, it's best to try to get rid of them. So we are going to be URL encoding it, and plus is URL encoded for a space. It's very possible that your reverse shell can get messed up when there's pluses in the base64. So whenever you see the pluses, go into your echo statement here and add a space and see if that clears it up. See the pluses got cleared up, but now we have an equal sign, so we can clear that up as well. So pluses and equal signs you want to get rid of, you just want it to be straight characters. So now that we have that, we can, our command will look like this. So echo, take this, paste it in there, then pipe it to base64 ecode, and then bash. And we can try this out by starting a listener. That messed up, that's weird. So if we do like nc listen on port 444, since we know what our shell is doing, it's going to call to our IP at port 444. We should get a connection here, and we do. So we know that that is working as intended. So we can just copy this whole command, and I just like to put it in like URL encoder.org. This has worked well for me. I think I also have a command line tool that does this, but I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot what it was. So I'm gonna go with what works, what I know works. So we encode that, copy. My Firefox is being very slow today. Apologies about that. We can listen on port 4444, and where we have our command here, let's throw our reverse shell. And we can see immediately we get our shell. So we can upgrade that. Python 3 -c, not -c, -c, import pty.spawn in bash. Oh, I believe I forgot this is supposed to be double quotes. In bash. There we go. And that'll give us just a more stable shell per se. So it'll be easier to work with. All right, so we have our shell on the box, but we still don't have the user flag because we're not the user yet. We're just a shell in the form of the web server. So let's cat etc password again, and we're going to grep for sh, which will show us what users have shell. So mtz is the only real user that I see, obviously him and root. So we're going to have to go to mtz. Let's see if we can cd into mtz's directory. I'm assuming not. Yeah, permission denied. So our next step is going to be trying to find some form of way to laterally move to mtz. And the best way I like to do this whenever I get a web shell in a box is just running linpeas. It's a really simple way to just get an oversight of the entire box to make sure you're not missing anything. And so to do that, you can go to dev SHM. Oh, I just tried to clear the screen. Okay, that's fine. We're not going to be able to clear the screen. I like to open another terminal. And we're going to nc lvnp1234, and we are going to expect the file linpeas.sh. So now our box is listening, and from our attacking box, we can nc 10, 10, 11, where I be? 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to give it peas linpeas.sh. And we see connection received. On our attacking machine, we press Control-C. It'll close that connection. Do ls. We see we now have linpeas.sh on our victim machine. Let's give that executable permissions, linpeas.sh, and let it run. Full screen this before I do this. linpeas.sh started. So I'm going to stop the video here and come back when linpeas is fully finished. Alrighty, so our linpeas has finished, and if we scroll only a little bit up, I lost my, there we go. If we scroll a little bit up, start looking through, but something that jumps right out of me is searching passwords in the config PHP files. We have in the Chamilo sort of directory, there's a configuration.php file, and we have a database password. Now this database password, we wouldn't be able to crack it, so it looks like a good password. So we're definitely going to lock that down, and we want to see if there's, I want to go to this configuration.php file and see if there's anything useful there. So I will go on my other cd, HackTheBox, easy, PermX. Let's nano credentials. So database, there we go. So we have that written down. Now let's go to this config file. Just cat it out. That was a lot. Let's go. Cannot find scroll. Let's find where that was in this config file. So we're getting close. Maybe it's at the top, I guess. Okay, we're just gonna go less. There we go. Okay, we just should have read from the top. Okay, so here's where linpeas pulled this information from. So localhost on port 3306, the database is Chamilo, the username is Chamilo, and our password is this. So if I remember my SQL command correctly, it's MySQL-user Chamilo, and our password is that. I think that should work. Fantastic. Okay. So show databases. We have Chamilo, so we're gonna use Chamilo. Make sure you always put a semicolon after your command, or else it can get really wacky really fast. Now show tables. We're gonna look for like a user table, and then we're gonna select all from user. So we have two hashes here. The admin hash, which is the Davis Miller person we saw earlier on the Chamilo homepage. He was the overall admin, and this is proven more by his little tag here, role super admin. And we have another user, Joe Anonymous, with his hash here. Now, between both of us, between me and you, I spent a lot of time trying to crack both these hashes, and it did not really lead me anywhere. So it's good to get here. It's good to get into the database, and from an attacker's perspective, this is a fantastic place to be. But for the sake of the box, to make sure we keep moving, I'm not going to throw hashcat on either of these because they don't really matter in the end. So we're going to take this information with a grain of salt and move on so we can exit out of this database. But we still have, after this point, I was kind of stuck for a little bit, but then I remembered we still have this password, this database password, and I wondered if this database password was the same as the user password, that being mtz. So if we switch user to mtz, we can simply paste our password in, and we are now mtz. So the whole database step wasn't very necessary, but it's still good to get there. And always practice your SQL commands. So, and that's fun. And we also had SSH on this box, so I'm just going to SSH to make my terminal very nice, and so I can clear the screen. So SSH, paste our password. Oops, maybe not. Let's try again. Paste the password. There we go. And now we can clear the screen. All right, so I'll put this one to the side. And let's work with this terminal. So ls, and we can see we have user.txt. Script.sh. It's strange that all of this stuff is in the mtz file. I'm pretty sure that this is not intentional. Like a cat script.sh. It's not like LSLA. So there's really no file sizes to any of these. Just it's a little strange, but like sudoers, it's strange that this is all in the home directory. Regardless, the first thing I want to do, sudo-l. I guess we didn't have to put in our password. And we see we have a no password we can run as root, and it is opt acl.sh. And ACL is access control list. Essentially just manages control for certain files and other things in the system. And we can see the script does pretty much that. So we have three variables. We have the user, the permissions the user is going to get, and the target file. And it looks like our target file has to be in the mtz directory. And if it's not, it'll say access denied. So for example, I'll give a few examples later, but check if the path is a file. So, and if it's not a file, then it'll say the target must be a file. So the path to escalation here can be a little confusing at first, but bear with me. I'll try to explain it the best I can. So currently we are in the home mtz file, or directory. If we try to use this to give ourselves like read permissions on a sensitive file that is outside of the mtz directory, we'll get access denied. So for example, we run sudo opt acl.sh. So the user is going to be mtz. Let's say we're going to give ourselves read-write permission on the etc shadow file. Let's say access denied because the etc shadow file is outside of the mtz directory. However, we can keep the same idea but use a nifty thing called symlinks. And a symlink will basically take one file and point it to another file that's outside of the directory. So to put this into practice, the syntax is like so. So ln-s-t. So this is our target file. So this is what we want to target. This is the file we want to get read, write, or execute permissions onto. So we can say etc shadow. And then we're going to put here, we're going to put the what file is going to point to the etc shadow file. So we would need this to be in the home mtz folder, because if not, then our script here isn't going to allow us. It's going to give us access denied. So home mtz, and let's call it shadow. So now we have shadow pointing to etc shadow. But if I try to read this now, I don't if I nano shadow, we get the permission denied because us as a normal user, mtz, we don't have permission to read the etc shadow file. However, with this script, we can. So sudo opt acl.sh, we're going to give ourselves read-write permissions on shadow, which is in our home directory. And we can probably specify this home tz shadow. And it went through. So now if we do nano shadow, you can see we get the root hash and we can see everything. So this is the method for PrivEsc. You can use this to read essentially any file, but the way that I want to PrivEsc is through the etc password file. With the etc password file, you can, if we give ourselves read write, like we can write in this file, we can save it, and now that is the actual etc shadow file. We can do a similar thing with the etc password file, but instead of adding a shadowed hashed password, we're going to add a new root user. So watch, this is super cool. So we're going to add another symlink. Oops. So ln-s-t, and we're going to target the etc password file. And we're going to link it to home mtz. Let's call this just password exploit. So right now, if we cat etc password, we can see there's one root user. We're right here. There's nothing out of the ordinary. But if we run our script again, opt acl.sh mtz, we're going to give ourselves read-write permissions on the home mtz password exploit. Press enter. And now if we nano password exploit, we can fully edit the actual etc password file. And what we can do, we can just add root2. Here is where we can add a password. I'm going to not add a password, so you can just add another colon, 0, 0, root, /root. You're basically just copying what is already there. Save, exit. And now if we cat etc password, password, you can see there's now the root2 user. So we have essentially completely worked around this access control list script by giving ourselves read and write permissions on the etc password file via a symlink. Now the privilege escalation is super simple, just su root2. There's no password, so it'll give us root. Now we can navigate to the root directory. We can say root.txt. So that is the box. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Apologies about my absence again. It won't happen again, I swear. I will try to be more consistent with uploads this semester going into next. I really love doing these videos. I love teaching. I love just the feeling of getting root on a box. It's really fun. It's really great. So yeah, subscribe to see more. As always, feel free to comment down below and tell me what you want to see next. If you have any suggestions or improvements for these videos, feel free. Always looking to improve and get that additional feedback. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Happy hacking. Hello everyone, it is Noah from the future, and I want to put this little segment at the end of the video for another method for privilege escalation. So you saw in the video I could edit a sensitive file, that being the etc password file, and you can add a new root user that way. But thinking about it, you can essentially edit any file. So with that in mind, you can do a similar thing for the etc sudoers, and you can essentially make the mtz user a sudoer. So to put that into practice, ln-s-t, and this is going to, so this is our command to make a symlink. So we're going to make a symlink to the sudoers file, and we can call it home mtz like sudo, and then sudo opt acl.sh mtz, and we're going to give ourselves read-write permissions on sudo. And now if we just nano sudo, we can see we are now looking at the sudo file, and we can just add mtz right here, all equals, really similar concept to the etc password, except we're just adding ourselves to a different sensitive file that isn't the etc password file, because I think that this method is really cool as well. So we can save this, exit, and now we just simply run. So if we see sudo-l, we see, oh, where'd it go? Did I not save that file? Oops. Oh, it's gone. Let's do that again. Sudo 2. Sudo 2. And no sudo 2. Go down. You can add mtz. All equals all. Save. And then sudo-l. We can see that mtz can run all sudo commands so long as we have the password, and thankfully, as we saw before, we have the password. So if we run sudo bin bash, we are simply now root. So I just thought that was another way, really cool way of getting root on this box. Either way, either the etc password or the etc sudoers, or essentially any sensitive file that you want to read and edit, you can do this for. So yeah, just another really cool way to finish off the box. So yeah, all right. Have a good one. Bye.